everybody to our last Watershed Wednesday of 2022. I'm Amy Wyatt from the Otsego County Conservation Association. And I just want to let you know for any questions you might have during our presentation, feel free to pop them into the Q&A section. And at the end, I will be able to read those questions off to today's presenter. Or if our group is small enough, which looks like we might be okay, you can use the raise hand feature and we can open up your microphone so you can ask your questions directly. So with no further ado, I'm turning things over to Lydia and we can get started.
Good morning. Thank you everyone for joining. I'd like to welcome everyone to week 8, the final week of the 2022 Watershed Wednesday series. I'm Lydia Brinkley, the Riparian Buffer Coordinator for the Upper Susquehanna Coalition. Watershed Wednesdays are hosted by the Upper Susquehanna Coalition and the Otsego County Conservation Association. These weekly sessions are taking the place of the Upper Susquehanna Watershed Forum for 2022. We've held these sessions every Wednesday since about mid-September, and if you would like to check back on any of the sessions that we held, you can check out our website for those videos. And if you would like to sign up for next year's, if that's what we're going to do, please go and sign up for the emails under the Watershed Wednesdays tab on our website. So these sessions are recorded and can be accessed at a later date. Today, our presenter is Julie Mayhorter. Julie serves as the Mid-Atlantic Urban and Community Forestry Coordinator for the U.S. Forest Service. As part of this role, she coordinates multi-state partnership efforts to advance Chesapeake Bay watershed tree canopy goals. Today, Julie will be presenting on the Chesapeake Tree Canopy Network and resources that are being developed for us all throughout the watershed. Thank you, Julie, so much for being here. As a reminder, like Amy said, raise hands or potentially we can open up the mic for you, or you can place your questions in the Q&A. Take it away, Julie.
Great. Thank you so much, Lydia, and thanks for having me on here. Can you hear and see me okay? I'm just looking at my own screen, so I don't see all the other stuff in the webinar.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, it's great to be here with you all, and I'm excited to share a little bit about some of the projects we've been working on to support tree canopy efforts throughout the watershed. What I've got here on the first slide is just a screenshot of our website, our partnership website, which is chesapeaketrees.net. And it's really a great hub for a lot of the resources I'll be talking about today, as well as different case studies from around the watershed. If you go into there's a community spotlight section in here. So I encourage you all to explore the website after the webinar, and hopefully you'll find some tools that'll be useful to you. So I just wanted to, whoops, gotta get my slides to advance here. Maybe I just need to click the page. Sorry, Lydia, do you have advice on, oh, there we go. Sorry.
Looks good.
I think we're good now. Thanks for bearing with me. So just before we launch into some of the Chesapeake specific information, I just want to center us in, I'm sure you all are very familiar with the many benefits that trees provide, not just to the environment and the watershed, but really to people and communities, helping with stormwater, but also touching everything from public health and safety, helping with urban heat effects, and really just building that community cohesion and even increasing property values. So the benefits are multifaceted, and that's what we really try to emphasize when we work with communities around tree canopy goals. And we've got a lot of great research to back that up now. So we do have a Bay-wide tree canopy goal that was adopted as part of the 2014 Chesapeake Watershed Agreement, signed by all the state governors and EPA and the Chesapeake Bay Commission. And the goal is to expand urban tree canopy by 2,400 acres by 2025. And it was our first time setting a numeric goal for canopy. So in a way, it was just sort of like, what do we think is possible? We didn't really know what the goal should be, but now as we're starting to get more data, we have a reference point to see, you know, how difficult is this goal to achieve? But I wanted to share a couple things about the goal. One is that when we say urban tree canopy, we're really talking about community tree canopy, all size communities, from the urban to rural spectrum. And that this 2,400 acre goal is really what we call a net gain goal. So we know we're losing canopy in a lot of places. And so what we want to do is maintain what we have and grow it by 2,400 acres. So that's where the challenge comes in. And as I was saying, it's not just about what we plant. You know, when we look at the community scale to achieve a tree canopy goal, most of that equation is about the existing canopy. You know, that's going to make up the bulk of whatever percent canopy a community has. So maintaining that, the health of it, and then adding to it through planting, and then making sure that those plantings, the old and new trees, are well maintained, and so that they can thrive into the future. And then also we, of course, have to take into account all of those different factors that are causing losses, from natural mortality to pests and disease issues, which of course are increasing with climate change, and you know, removals, development, you name it. There's a lot of things that are whittling away at the canopy. So we have two ways of tracking progress on this for the Bay watershed. One is that states report all of their BMPs on urban and ag lands for credit towards the TMDL, which you all are probably all familiar with. But there are 3 urban tree BMPs that they can report: urban tree planting, urban forest planting, and urban forest buffers. And so we track those numbers each year. And then, but to really know what's happening on the ground, on the landscape, you know, to assess both the gains and the losses, we use the high resolution land cover and land use data that is now being developed for the whole watershed. So in 2013, we had that data set for the entire watershed for the first time. And it's really great to be able to assess canopy, especially in urban areas, much better than kind of the coarser 30-meter data sets that we were using before. And then we have now a second data point from around 2017, 2018. So it's the first time we've been able to look and see what kinds of gains and losses are occurring, and really have more informed efforts going forward. So what have we found? So on the planting side, in terms of those urban tree planting BMPs that have been reported, since the agreement was signed in 2014, we've had 8,300 acres reported as planted. So that definitely exceeds the 2,400 acre target if we just look at planting. And a lot of those, you know, every state is contributing to this. As you can see, there's a lot coming from Maryland here, because they have a lot of programs and regulations in place that really require a lot of tree planting. So, and then on the right here, we have a table of what we've been finding, some of what we've been finding in this new land use change data set that we've been so eager to get our hands on. So what we see is, if we just look at the census places that are defined, that's sort of one way of defining where communities are, is to use the census data. And so if we just look at those census places across the watershed, we see that we've had a total, an overall net loss of 25,000 acres of tree cover. So it varies by state, of course, and you can see New York, which I know some of you all are calling in from New York, has a gain there, which is exciting. So you've had a trend in the positive direction. When you look outside of just those census places and look at tree cover loss from development, the numbers are a lot higher. And some of those numbers will be shared through through the fact sheets that I'll be talking about in just a minute. So that's just a quick snapshot of what we've been seeing so far in looking at these new data sets. And one of the things that we know is so important is to really get, you know, there's amazing GIS and map viewers and a lot of technical tools out there, but we really wanted to have a way to get some of these key statistics into the hands of local governments and other decision makers and advocates so they can use it, to inform their local efforts. And so this is sort of an example template of what is going to be produced for all the counties that are in or have a portion of their county within the Chesapeake Bay Watershed. And it's a 2-pager that, folks will be able to access digitally and then, print if they want. So I'm gonna step through some of the portions of this because I know it's hard to see from far away there. So at the top of the fact sheet, there's sort of some key statistics, the total percent tree cover in the county, and then the annual benefits in terms of air pollution, stormwater, and carbon reductions, and those come from a tool called iTree Landscape. And then what the net change has been during the study period. So 2013 to 2017, some states, those dates are 2014 to 2018. It varies by state. But you can see whether there was a gain or a net gain or a net loss and how much it was. And then the rest of the fact sheet is really sort of expanding on those 3 points. So you have a table here that shows the land use, land cover breakdown for the county. And then even a breakout of what that tree cover, where it's found, how much of it is in forest. And we define forest in this data set as patches of trees that are greater than an acre and that reach a certain minimum patch width. And then we also have the detail of how much of that tree cover is over turf grass, so more in developed areas, or over impervious. And then other tree cover might be on scattered trees on farms, other small patches that aren't classified in those other buckets. So so that detail will be there, as well as you can see the detail around the iTree benefits, the air pollution removal values, how many pounds, and dollar value on that, as well as stormwater reduction and carbon sequestration. So that's kind of the first page of the fact sheet. Then the second page focuses more on the change information. So there will be kind of a map of the county that shows areas that, sort of areas of the county that had a gain, areas that had sort of a small amount of loss, and then areas that had a higher degree of loss. And we're still kind of tweaking the map here. The thresholds, we're trying to figure out what's going to work across the watershed for that. But that's the kind of map that will be shown. And then also this bar chart that shows, how many acres of tree cover were gained over turf or pervious land use and over impervious, and then how many were lost to turf and impervious. And then finally, at the bottom of these fact sheets, there are some links to learn more and to some related tools. And a couple of these I'll be sharing a little more about, but the main hub, again, is the Chesapeake Tree Canopy Network. We will have a page dedicated to this where there'll be an interactive map where people can access their county fact sheet. And there will also be links to where do you actually go if you want to dig into the actual GIS data yourself and learn more about that. And we'll have a data user guide or a data guide that gives a lot more detail on kind of the methodology of every piece of the fact sheet for people that like to have that detail. So we're excited that this project is going to be done soon. I was hoping it'd be done in time for this webinar, but it's taken a little longer to figure out how to get these produced for all the counties and get that automated process set up. So we're hoping they'll be posted by the end of this calendar year, and we'll be sending a big communication out through your networks and others to guide people to where to find these fact sheets when they're ready. So I'll just share briefly about a couple of other tools that you might be interested in. So This is a new-ish tool from American Forest called Tree Equity Score. It's a really great way to look at the differences in tree canopy cover, really at the neighborhood scale. It goes down to the census block scale, and it's overlaid with other demographic information related to income and race and some health variables and urban heat variables. So it really helps to take all those things into consideration and see where you have low tree equity scores. Those are areas that really kind of need more attention and investment and partnership. And so it's good for prioritizing efforts. So I encourage you to check that out if you haven't already. Also, we have the Chesapeake Bay Partnership developed a kind of a curriculum, a local government guide to the Chesapeake Bay that has sorry about that, folks. Let me try to back that up. That has a lot of different modules that might be interesting to you all, but there is a tree module as part of it that is really a nice primer for local governments and others on the benefits of trees and some of the best practices and some local case studies to kind of make the case for investing and building local tree canopy efforts. So we've been updating the curriculum and some of these resources with the new information about the fact sheets, the county fact sheets, which I just described. And so those will also be packaged in a new way on our website in the next month or so. And so you'll be able to actually see the slideshow right on our website and download it and use it in any presentations you might want to give locally, and you can adapt it for local use. And then we also have a few publications that have been developed with partners in the last 5 or so years that might be of interest. The one on the left, Making Your Community Forest Friendly, is one that the Center for Watershed Protection developed that is kind of a codes and ordinance checklist, but it really focuses on forest and tree cover and how to kind of look at those elements and see where there's room to strengthen local policies and planning tools to make them more conducive to forest and tree cover. And then we also have the Financing Urban Tree Canopy Programs, which is a guide focusing more on the funding side of things. And then a recent product that an intern helped develop was the Trees in Schools guide that pulls together a lot of great curriculum resources for working with schools on tree related efforts and some of the Green Schools programs, all tying into some of the Chesapeake Bay program goals for environmental literacy and green schools. So all of these resources are in different places around our chesapeaketrees.net website. So encourage you again to explore and look for those, and I can also provide direct links if you need them. And with that, I think we've reached the end here. So I wanted to leave lots of time for people who might have questions or discussion points, and want to be able to get to as many of those as possible. So thank you so much, and look forward to hearing your questions. I'm going to come out of presenter mode here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Julie. So with that extra time, that's wonderful. We do have availability. So if folks have questions, please use the raise hand feature, and I'll be able to open up your microphone so you can ask Julie directly. If you're also feeling bashful this morning, you can put your question in the Q&A and I can read them as well, whatever works best for folks.
I missed a little bit of that, Julie. I think though, how do you anticipate getting this information to the municipal officials? And specifically, like, a lot of our municipalities don't really have people who think about this type of stuff. So like, who is the target? Who do we think we're really trying to get at with this information?
That's a great question, and it's one that I'm really open to hearing from folks. Like, people could actually, if you want to not just raise questions, but ideas and suggestions, I'd love to hear them, because I think that really is the biggest challenge is we have this great data, but how do you make sure that it's getting into folks' hands and that they're getting engaged? I think that this audience, I mean, the nonprofits and the conservation districts, those that kind of understand the content here and then are trying to kind of help engage their local governments, are really the best messengers to bring it forward and try to build partnership around it. So that's why we've been trying to kind of make them packaged in sort of nice formats that are then easy for you to kind of take and adapt to local use. But in terms of our plan for getting it out, I know that the Bay program has we have a local leadership work group that has, some of those statewide associations of counties or of boroughs, some of those entities that exist. We were going to try to get it out through some of their newsletters and maybe some webinar series like this, but others. Also try to get on some of the conference lists where there are state conferences of local governments. So that's kind of, I guess a multifaceted plan is to try to just find different ways to get in front of folks. But I would encourage if there are folks in this network that want to engage directly and want some support in getting this messaging out, just to reach out to me and we can kind of brainstorm some more ideas and strategies around that.
So in New York State, at least, Julie, there's a program through the DEC called the Climate Smart Communities Program, and they do have coordinators throughout the entire New York State, like throughout the entire state that work with municipalities on resiliency work. But I think this would partner extremely well with that. And I would love to talk further about that. So maybe you and I can connect to see if we can help distribute it in the New York State portion of the watershed to get stuff out there.
That would be great, Amy.
Yeah.
Let's please connect. I'll make sure to put my email in the chat. We're actually, I guess on a side note, we are convening some meetings with each state. We're going to be having a tree canopy funding and policy roundtable that is Bay-wide. It will be virtual so that folks from all the states can easily attend. And it's going to be kind of in the January-February timeframe, and we're meeting with some folks in each state to kind of prepare for that and make sure we've got a good invite list. So I'd love to also get your input around some of that, so we can hopefully get some more people from New York attending.
Sure, I would love to. So we actually have more discussion in the chat than questions, but Kevin Miller is saying that he's going to be putting this information in the Friends of the Upper Susquehanna Facebook page. And then Kevin, I will put that information right in the chat. So Climate Smart Communities is a program through the New York State DEC, and they have just recently, so the program has always been supported by the Clean Energy Community Coordinators, but they have just recently added their own coordinators, so you can get assistance from a much larger group of folks. It's free technical assistance to municipalities to work on climate resiliency and mitigation work. And it's everything from policy to physical mitigation to a variety of things. There's over 100 and a very large number, 150 actions, I believe, that you could potentially take, and it is something that OCCA does support, and we have, yes, exactly, yep. So it's becoming a climate smart community, but I think that's a great way for us to share this information, right? So I think it'll be a really great connection. But yeah, we have coordinators to help with that. So if anybody is at all interested, the sister program to that is the NYSERDA's Clean Energy Communities Program, which really works in greenhouse gas emissions inventory, but that's a different project entirely, or not just inventories, but greenhouse gas reductions. But again, free technical assistance. So for municipalities, this is how we try to talk with them and get connected with them. But are there any more comments or questions for Julie? because it is quite obvious I can sit and talk about climate resiliency for a very long time. I
can share a couple. I just thought of a couple more things to share. So one is that we're producing these fact sheets at the county scale first, and once we get those all produced and posted online, we're going to also produce them for municipalities, because I know that's really where a lot of this decision making comes down to, and where the interest is. So stay tuned for that as well. It's just there's a lot of communities, so we got to figure out how to produce. But it's an automated process, so hopefully it won't be challenging, but I think that will be a useful tool as well. Also, related to, one of the things that makes this tree canopy funding and policy roundtable, such a great time to be doing that right now. And the themes around that roundtable are, one, looking at these tree canopy losses and the challenge that we're up against, and what are some policy solutions around that. Another is climate resilience. There's so much new action happening in communities around that. How do we make sure that trees are really well woven into that, and that we're capitalizing on the different funding sources out there around climate resilience? And then, of course, equity as well. So we are excited in the Forest Service that in the Inflation Reduction Act, there was historic level of funding for the urban and community forestry program. Our program is typically about $36 to $40 million a year program, just distributed out through the state forestry agencies, and Congress passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which directs $1.5 billion for urban and community forestry, mostly in the next 5 years. So there's going to be a lot of new grant opportunities related to that, both within, partnership with states, as well as, open RFPs nationally. So stay tuned for that as well.
There's one more question. Are the county info sheets available for New York?
So these county info sheets are just available for the New York, Chesapeake counties, because we have the data set, the high resolution tree cover and land cover data just for the watershed counties. But so any county that has any portion of it in the Bay watershed will have a fact sheet, and the fact sheet is based on the whole county, not just the portion that's in the watershed.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, if there are any more questions, we have just a few moments left, so folks can pop them in the chat or the QA. But other than that, Julie, thank you so much for closing out the 2022 Watershed Wednesdays. It was a wonderful presentation, and I look forward to connecting with you so we can talk more about some opportunities in the New York State watershed area. And we look forward to letting you all, so just so you all know, we hope to be doing something along these lines soon, and we will be sending out information to everyone who is on the Watershed Wednesdays newsletter list. So if you are interested in getting information about potential future Watershed Wednesdays, please make sure your contact information is on that list. And I guess with no further ado, we will close up on time. I forgot to turn on my video. Sorry, everybody. And we hope that you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.